Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to a special Game Week 8 What Do We Know episode of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co host, Late Riser. How's it going, buddy?
Doing good. It happens to be your birthday tomorrow. What plans in place? I thought I'd get that in early so that everybody that needs to wishes you.
Thank you, That's very nice. It's just a usual day. It's a working day. I think just before the holidays, I think the weekend is when we have the puja holidays in India. So, usual gym and then just dinner with a few friends.
Lovely, lovely. I in fact like it for you that it's in the international break, so that's a little relaxed. I think after this piece of content process, doing a video on Thursday, with a wildcarder. So if you're on wildcard, it's interesting content to watch out what they're looking at right now, and then it's a little bit of a relaxed thing before we all three of us get podding next Tuesday.
Right. So, why don't you tell our viewers what we'd be doing today?
So today, what we're doing is we've just taken stock of everything that's happened so far in the season, and we're trying to contextualize that and try to remove the noise from the data and give our opinion on what we know and what we don't, and what is actually false and maybe a wrong narrative. Because and Zos done a great job of populating a ton of images, and what he's actually done is we're also looking at the fixtures from the first 7 game weeks, which will give us a view of X happened because actually this team actually had really good fixtures as well. So maybe you don't read too much into that. So I'm looking forward into that. Just a sort of slow dive, if you may, into everything that's happened this
Yeah,
season.
it might be a long one today, but I think it's the right time to do it over the IB so people can take their time, watch it over like 3, 4 days. So I guess it is important to look back, right? And whatever data we present, usually I would like to say 7 game weeks is a good sample size of data, but it obviously must be caveated because the fixtures are still weighted towards certain teams. So whatever
Yeah.
data you guys see on the screen, just keep in mind certain teams have had better or worse fixtures, and we'll talk about that right at the top.
The biggest thing that I also want to keep in mind is that maybe the first 3 or 4 weeks was skewed by the late joinees from the international competition as well. So, there is a little bit of noise in the data with regards to that as well. So, I mean, Foden is still only just getting up to fitness. So, we have to take all those things into consideration. And before we get further, I want to shout out to my nephew, Ayan, who's also had his birthday last week. He's turned into a fine young FPL manager. He listens to our pod every week, and even fine young gentleman now. So happy birthday, Ayan, from all of us at the FPL Wire, and we hope you have a great year in FPL and otherwise.
Happy birthday, Ayan. Let's start with our sponsors, then dive right in.
Sure. As always, all the data, and there's a ton of data on this podcast. Every single thing that you see is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. And I just think it's so worth it. So if you want to become a member, click on the link in the description below, because it's not just the data that we've pulled today. It's also now we're doing members articles where we're getting exclusive stats bomb images and data, which I found really, really useful and nice as an addition this season when it comes to the Scout membership. And everything's on an app as well. So, if you haven't become a member, links down there, and help us out by clicking on that link.
And as you guys know, the NordVPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/, the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV show recommendations, boss?
I haven't started The Penguin yet, so that's on my list. I'm currently watching the new season of Slow Horses, which is picking up quite nicely. I'm actually just finishing episode 3, and I've heard that episode 4 is an absolute banger. So, yeah, that's what I'm on at the moment. Anything you're watching?
I'm watching Rings of Power. Finally started season 2. I'm binging that, alternating between that and Slow Horses. Seeing a few good films also recently. Can't remember the names. A good few regional ones, Tamil, Telugu
Oh,
ones, and all that stuff.
but if you're talking about films, I would do want to mention that I happened to see Joker 2 on
Oh,
the
you
day
did.
it released in the theaters. And what happened is my wife and I, we saw the first movie again on Tuesday, and that's a masterpiece. So we just wanted to see it again before we watch the second movie again. And I can't tell you how much of a disappointment it was.
Mm.
And I read the reviews and I understood that, the reviews aren't great. So I went in with low expectations. And even those low expectations disappointed me. So if you're looking to watch that in the theaters, I'd say hard avoid.
Oh man, sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. Nod also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. You can grab your exclusive Nod VPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nod's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. So let's start with the ticker then, buddy. Let's contextualize first the first fixture difficulty ratings for the first 7 game weeks. And for the guys who are on audio, it's going to be a bit tedious to read out everything that's all on screen. So we do recommend you watch this on video to get all the visuals. Where we can, we will mention. So right on the what we're looking at have now, the first 7 game weeks, Liverpool are right on top. We see there are a sea of blue fixtures over there. Even the light blue one, Manchester United, we know how that one went. Villa, they had the Arsenal game, which was a bit iffy. Again, a good run. Chelsea, apart from Man City, fantastic run. And Everton really should have done better considering the fixtures they had. So far, they got some results in the last few blue ones. That's about it. And Bournemouth. Palace is something to look at, right? Palace have had a good run and they're sitting in the bottom 3.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's something we definitely like. It's nice to raise our hand up as well, where we mistook and didn't pay attention to how much of an impact actually losing Olise would have at that in that
Even
team.
Anderson.
Even Anderson, right? So, I mean, yes, we rate the manager, etc. But if you take away 2 or 3 big players from any team, you're going to see changes, and not replace them adequately. You're going to see changes in performance from that team. So it's probably a lesson learned for the future.
Yep. And why I wanted to mention Liverpool again, now Liverpool have kept 5 clean sheets in the first 7 games. If we extrapolate that to an entire season, they will break all Premier League records. So obviously, they're not going to keep clean sheets in the next 7. Now look at the upcoming fixture schedule now. For Liverpool, they're in the bottom 5 with games against Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Villa, and Man City in the next 5. And now this will be a big part of our trend discussion. So I want you guys to keep this in mind. Just off the top, Ellard, how many clean sheets you see in that run?
3, 3 or 2.
I would agree with that. I think 2, you said the Southampton and maybe one of the Brighton Villa games, the away games, or the game against Chelsea even. Probably not. I'd
Yeah,
say
just on an average, considering the way they're playing in terms of more control, they maybe pull off a clean against one of the 3 tougher fixtures.
potentially, I think 3 out of 7, let's say. I think
Yeah.
would be the upper limit where I would go. And so you look at the teams on top, Manchester United go right up there. And I think it's a big meeting they're having today, right? Where they're reviewing Ten Hag's future.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I was talking to a few people, etc., and it's not fully certain that he's going to be leaving. So I think United is just a discussion that should be parked until next Wednesday, Thursday, in case there's news. If not, we know which direction we're going in.
Right. And again, Everton, I think the next 3 fixtures, particularly the ones against Ipswich and Southampton, are the ones that we should be targeting. But we also have to look at now Everton are a team to target if you have Ipswich and Southampton attackers. It works both ways.
I do think their numbers are improving though. If I'm not mistaken, in the last 3 weeks, they've conceded the least number of shots on target in the league. So that defense is slowly improving. And it looks like the Mykolenko and Branthwaite worries were very short term. He did mention that he's hoping to have them back for Ipswich itself. So once these guys are fit, I think Everton are a decent team defensively. Yes, they had a little bit of fortune in terms of how they got the clean sheet against Newcastle, but just, I think you know what you're going to get from that team.
I think we should also pay attention to the other teams at the bottom. We've seen Brighton, the bottom there, Bournemouth. A lot of us with Semenyo. I think the next 3 fixtures are quite off-putting. Chelsea also in the bottom 3. Villa just above. So a lot of popular teams who we are invested in FPL now we are seeing have a slightly detrimental now run of fixtures. And I think let's talk about the European schedule now. I think that's quite relevant, which Lego Mane sent us now. Most teams now do not have a free midweek, the other side of the international break. And you look at the Carabao Cup games, some of them have tough fixtures. Man City are away to Spurs, but not tough fixtures, but still a competitive fixtures. Liverpool have Brighton, Villa have Palace, Chelsea have Newcastle, United have Leicester. How strong do you think these guys will go?
I think they will be fringes of the squad mixed in with maybe 3 or 4 first team players. I think it will be that sort of a mix. But there will be definitely, like, at least the Champions League clubs will be eyeing up this week as a fixture to rotate. Though it is interesting though, because I think there's varying degrees of opponent difficulty that these clubs face. Now, if you're looking at City, for example, between 8 and 9, and they've got Sparta Prague at home. And then between 10 and 11, they have Who do they have away?
Sporting. It says SPU. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's Sporting. I think it is.
Yes. So it's relatively more comfortable fixtures. Now you compare that to Arsenal also. Arsenal also have an easy fixture between 8 and 9, which is Shakhtar Donetsk at home. The good thing is it's at home. So before the Liverpool fixture, they've got Shakhtar Donetsk at home. But between Newcastle away and Chelsea away in 10 and 11, they've got Inter Milan away, which is not an easy tie. And Liverpool are the most interesting one for me because
Yes.
I think between the next in the between this international break and the next one, they've got the toughest and the trickiest run of fixtures. It's not just that the league fixtures are tricky, even the European fixtures are tricky. So Chelsea at home, followed by Leipzig away, followed by Arsenal away, followed by Brighton, which is the cup fixture, followed by Brighton at home, followed by Leverkusen, also not an easy fixture at home, and followed by so it's just a tough run. And this immediately tells me, man, like it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to predict Diaz's minutes, Jota's minutes, for example, where I don't think it's going to be easy to call out that, okay, he's going to start this game and he's going to not start this game. So that just look a little bit tricky. That was my first impression from that.
Absolutely. Liverpool definitely have the toughest fixture on coming up during the upcoming because all other teams, I think you can manage a little bit. I think
Yeah.
because, yeah, I'm looking at the fixtures for the other guys. Even Chelsea, I think Arsenal have the advantage. They have Preston before Newcastle. They can rotate over there. Chelsea have a
Yeah.
big enough squad to play entirely different 11 in all those games, right? It's not really
Yeah.
a worry
Yeah.
with the conference as much.
Villa also have a fairly tricky fixture, by the way.
Who do they have? They have, who's BOL? Bologna?
Bologna at home and then Bruges away between Spurs
That's not
and
that bad. I
Liverpool.
think the toughest games are gone, right? They had just had the Bayern on the
Yeah.
other side. They
You
play
know,
Juventus on after that break.
the problem in 10 and 11 is that all three are away games on the trot.
Oh, that's a good point.
So it's just a little tricky. And, we'll talk about the big hitters when we get there. But my perception about Villa not quite yet clicking into gear, it's just true. They were, we were there for the taking and they didn't take their chances.
Absolutely spot on.
Do you think it's too soon, though, to maybe start not considering players from Europe and start paying more attention to the Bowens and the SS of the world? Or I think after 12 is when you start looking at them. What do you think?
After 12, but I wouldn't be looking like certain. Now, definitely, if you ask me to weigh up a Diaz versus a Bowen, I'd look towards Bowen now versus the first 4 weeks, for example.
Correct. So there's a slight, maybe 10%, 5% drop in weightage, given squad size, given team structure, etc. I do want to mention, though, that there was a friendly game or some under 21 game or squad game for Villa where Mings and Kamara played. And it's very, very important because Villa quite haven't gotten into gear yet. And now, post the international break, they will probably have Mings, Kamara, and maybe McGinn fit as well. Now, that's just a huge, huge bonus and improvement in the squad, which will help them with these European fixtures, especially Kamara, because Villa's defensive numbers haven't been anything to write off. That defense has not been the best, but I think Kamara and Onana as a pivot will help that team.
Right, but the problem is the Champions League is just a pure block of fixtures, right? Like we saw it with Newcastle last year. Injuries will happen if you have the same guys. Eventually, you have to play more or less the same players midweek because we have the big games. You can't rest those guys against Bayern Munich, for example, right? And mentally, it's not just physically. Mentally, it also takes a toll on fatigue with players.
Yep. So yeah, man. Until Villa click, at the moment I have mentioned on the last two pods, they feel like they're playing in third gear. Until I see them moving into fourth or fifth gear, I'm all right not jumping on Ollie Watkins.
Right. Should we move into now defense and go section by section?
Yeah, section by section, team by team, relevant players, etc.
Yep. I think in defense, I think Trent is a big discussion. But before that, let's look at the stats so far for XGC. Liverpool right on top, 5.17 with the fewest big chances conceded after Fulham. If you told me that Fulham will concede 9 big chances after 7 game weeks, I wouldn't have believed you.
It's just like they're sort of like, how do I, like the name that's coming to my head is they're sort of like the Nana Patekar of Premier League teams in terms of just been there, done that, experienced manager, experienced
I love that
player.
reference, by the way. Fantastic.
Like they know what they're supposed to do. Can you give like an English reference so that people understand the point that I'm trying to make with something like this? Where it's just a pro that's been out there and a bunch of pros that have been,
maybe.
But Dinero is almost like legendary. You know what I'm saying? So just a pro that's been there for a long time and knows what to do and will know what to do. They're a good team at the moment. I think they invested the money wisely, by the Palinia money, by getting ESR, by getting Sanderberg, and getting Anderson at the back. So it's not like they haven't revitalized a squad well. So I in fact wonder, because if we're selling Trent, we are looking at defenders to buy also. I'm like, is the answer just go back to Robinson?
Yes. I think we'll have a look at the schedule because again, Trent is a big one. Some other numbers that really stood out to me now. Tottenham are the fewest for open play goal attempts conceded, 38. But the 12 big chances conceded, very freak numbers for some of these guys. Even Brighton, you see, in terms of open play goal attempts, is very low. But I think maybe because of the fixture against Arsenal, it's
Yeah.
affected a little bit like that. But look at the teams in the bottom, how bad they are still: Southampton, Leicester, and Ipswich. But that being said, I think Leicester are probably better than those other two from what I've seen so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to experience, right? They've got more experienced league players compared to the other two, and I think that just counts for something in terms of just know-how.
Yep, because in terms of big chances conceded, look at that 30, they're 19th. So
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
and look at Wolves and Southampton. So outside of Leicester and Ipswich, the other two teams with the most big chances conceded are Erling Haaland's opponents in the next two.
Good spot
Another
there.
important discussion to have: without uh, KDB, without Rodri, what City's perspective is, because a lot of people were looking at Foden for this period and are sort of on the edge and not fully committed to going there. So I think that's also going to be an interesting discussion to have.
Right. Now, Chelsea are fifth over here for 7.1, and anyone who's watched the last two home games can tell you we are not a good defense. I think
Yeah,
we've been flattered heavily by the fixtures we have played.
correct. And how much of an impact do you think losing Fofana? I think losing Colville would have had a bigger impact than losing Fofana, because I think Tosin is just a fine replacement for Fofana. But who's going to play in place of Cuckoo?
So now two things now we can do now. Generally, one of the fullbacks, Kuku, has been inverting into midfield, right? Now what we
Yeah,
can do is have Gusto do that, and we chuck another centre back in there. Or we would have Renato Vega, but I think it makes more sense to put a Badiashile or Disasi there as an additional centre back, and have
got
Gusto
it.
come into midfield.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It just makes full sense. What about Reece James? Where is he these days with his fitness?
Nowhere near.
No idea.
Can't
All
start
right,
at
man.
Anfield. I think it's too big a game for him.
Yeah, yep. Everton numbers and West Ham numbers, two teams that we thought would actually defend better so far this season, have been poor. But I do sense that the next time we do this, they will be more mid-table, higher mid-table. I think that improvement is coming. Much needed result for Lopetegui. And because when we looked at the business that West Ham did at the start of the season, we were all impressed. We were all like, they've done well, they spent well, there are good players that they bought. Uh, it's just not clicked. But it's something that I think it was Bowen or Antonio actually who mentioned in his post-match interview, where he said that we are moving and transitioning from a team that never played possession football, and that's been their way of playing for the last 4 or 5 years, to this. So it's a little bit of a bad habit situation that we need to get rid of. So maybe a transition like that does take time. So I wouldn't write West Ham off just yet in terms of investing in them defensively.
Yeah, like we had spoke about, I think the previous spot, they gave up about 0.36 XG to Brentford, who just scored 5 against Wolves. It shows that they
Yeah.
can defend when they need to. Brentford are a good
Yeah.
attacking side at home.
Yep. Yep. Also want to cite that Wolves have probably had the worst run of fixtures until the start of the season. I think after a week or two, their run gets really, really good. So, for people that are looking at Ait Nouri, it's just something to monitor, because they have been burned by the terrible run of fixtures that they've had so far this season. And one difference that I actually want to shout out, that I've seen enough proof in the pudding, especially after playing your lot this week, was Forest, man. They're a proper mid to upper mid table team. They made that transition. I thought they were quite good defensively. I thought they stifled Chelsea players quite well, and it's not a coincidence that they've done so well defensively. Yes, they've had good fixtures, but they're just a difficult fixture if you're looking to captain against them, or if you're looking at a defender in the market. I think like Milinkovic, right? He got the assist for the goal as well. He's a genuine threat on set pieces, especially with Ward-Prowse in that team. If people are looking at 4.5, he's probably top 2, top 3 for me in that bracket at the moment.
But Forest again is a very strange one because Nuno Ball, the way it works, is very effective against these teams where they can sit back and counter. You saw the
Correct.
last game where they have to possession and it's on them to break teams down. They lost at home 1-0 to Fulham. So
Correct.
it's not that clear cut. When you see a fixture, for example, at home to Crystal Palace for Forest, it doesn't scream clean sheet to me as much because they will be a
Yeah,
bit more front foot.
fair. Fair. Also, shout out to Joshua Miranda. He gave us the perfect reference. Fulham are the Joe Pesci of the Premier
Oh,
League.
that's a good one.
Spot on. Exactly that. Just the know-how is there.
Yeah, but they don't amuse us like Joe
They
Pesci
don't
does.
know. Hey, they've got Adama.
Oh yeah. Adama's stats are mental, man. I was having a look at midfielders and we'll jump into that soon. But Adama's stats are just completely off the chain.
But
Arsenal also, go ahead.
go on, talk about Arsenal
I just
first.
wanted to mention Arsenal 7.37 with 2 games. I think they played about half of the games they were against 10 men.
Yeah. Exactly. So that data has more noise than it should. And also worth noting that Merino is fit now. So it won't be a case of Partey playing wing back and then Jorginho playing in midfield. Like I think it will very much be one of Timber or Calafiori, or sorry, Timber or White playing on the other side. I think Calafiori is nailed in that position. I think he's a great defender to have. If you're going off one and coming back in the market later, if he's cemented that position, I would be interested. Uh, and then they're going to have Rice, Merino, and Havertz. Havertz isn't a midfielder. It's a 4-2-4. I'm tired of saying that. Everybody says that Havertz playing in midfield. He's a striker, pretty much a striker. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think from a defensive perspective as well.
Couple of other teams I think who are flattered a bit over here is Villa at 6.14. They never come across to me as a good defense. It's different if they completely want to shut shop like they did against Manchester United, but I never fancy a defender from there for clean sheet. And Bournemouth, I always like a fixture for my attackers against Bournemouth, even though they're in the top 10 over here.
It's different though. Like AL contextualized Villa, I think Kamara will add to their clean sheet prospects. Like we need to be aware of how much of an impact he will make on that team defensively now, because he was one of the best DMs when he was there. So you have to think about that. And when you're talking about Bournemouth, I think Bournemouth are good for attackers if you're a top 4, top 5 attack. Like I feel like good teams can break them. Like from an attacking capacity, I think your team, Liverpool, City, and Spurs. Like these 4 teams, I wouldn't
Arsenal
mind
as well.
and Arsenal. I wouldn't mind these attackers against Bournemouth. But if you're talking about teams below that, I think it's a difficult fixture.
For example, like would you rather have an attacker in Arsenal versus Bournemouth or Spurs versus West Ham?
Arsenal versus Bournemouth.
Agree.
I agree. Arsenal versus Bournemouth, for sure. Though Spurs versus West Ham is generally a derby that shows us a lot of goals as well. But Arsenal versus Bournemouth, I like it. I like the fixture. People are thinking of selling Saka and Kai at the moment. No, man, hold guard. It's a good fixture for your Arsenal attackers.
Cool. Let's start looking at some individual numbers now for the defenders, now that we've looked at the overall stats. Let's add something on goalkeepers. I wanted to bring up. I forgot to load it. Never mind. So what I was mentioning on goalkeepers, I forgot to put up the image that Alisson was in the top 3 for XG prevented, and now we know for sure he's out till at least the next international break. That being said, Kelleher is also there in the top 7, top 8. And again, we have to be wary now of looking for confirmation bias. Right now, all of us are trying to get one additional premium into our teams. The first place we're looking at Trent, and we're potentially looking for reasons to sell Trent here. Maybe Alisson is out, the fixture schedule is there. So I want to keep that in mind. How big an impact do you think that has on their clean sheet potential?
Not as big as an impact it would have had last year under Klopp. Like I think that's the biggest differentiating factor, wherein Liverpool played this rock and roll football where they left Virgil and defender against 2 attackers in sort of like a 1-on-1, 2v1 sort of situation. That doesn't happen as much this season. So Klopp relied on Van Dijk and Alisson in his team to play that high risk football. Slot isn't doing that. So in terms of the big chances that Liverpool concede, etc., in terms of the shots that they concede, they are not as reliant on Alisson coming up in their faces and blocking that 1-on-1 as they were last year. So I think while it is a factor, I don't think it's as microscope a factor as it used to be. And I think Kelleher is just a fine replacement for this brand of football that Liverpool are playing.
That's a fantastic point you made, and one I hadn't considered actually. I forgot how many one-on-ones Klopp's teams used to give up just against Alisson, but Alisson would just completely bail them out. But again, we saw against Palace, a few shots that Alisson made good saves, few of them that were hit right at him. There is a factor, and I think it's a mental thing also, right? When you're up against a good keeper, all your strikers generally take one more touch. They try to finish it into the corner a bit more. So it does have a bit of an effect today. If I'm a forward, I would definitely rather face Kelleher than Alisson.
Yeah. But I just don't think it's that big of an impact. Like I think under Klopp, yes, big difference. I would be much more convinced about losing Trent than I am today under Slot.
Fair shout.
Yeah.
Any other names you should shout out of here? Your keeper, Onana, has done very well.
Yeah, man. I don't know where we'd be without him. We've kept, Ten Hag in his post-match interview. He's great at deflecting. He mentioned we've kept 4 clean sheets. A lot of that is down to Onana. Genuinely, a lot of that is down to Onana. He settled after his first year. He's playing well as well. So the moment we have a manager like Tuchel in our ranks, then you'll start looking at our defenders because there's a good run coming. So, in fact, we're not going to mention United much right now, but if there is a new manager bounce to take note of, then we start looking at them and we'll talk about them in the conversation next week.
And I think Leicester, we mentioned them earlier. They're not as bad. And I think a lot of that is again down to their goalkeeper. 4 XGC and prevented in 7 games is crazy.
Yep.
A lot of
Not
that
much
was
else.
against Arsenal.
I do want to mention that actually Sells is not on here, but he was really good against Chelsea. And that impression that we had about him not being a good keeper and him losing his position, I think he's done enough in the first 7 games to let that position be his now.
Right. Now he'll be afforded 2 or 3 gaffes anyway, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And same with Sanchez. I think he made you all not lose a point in that game. Like 2 or 3 fantastic saves, especially at the end. So yeah, shout out to both.
He's made up for the error he made when he came out in the last game against Brighton.
Exactly.
Yep. So individual numbers now. Trent right on top, 2.8.
Let's dive into the Trent discussion first, though. Like, what do you think? Where are you at with Trent?
Let me ask you first. How do you feel you want to set up now for premiums? Right now, let's classify Haaland and Salah as your ultra premiums. I think from what we have seen, especially the last game week, is that having 2 of them, and let's say both of them blank, it's potentially catastrophic for your score that week, right? So I'm pretty clear now that I want only 1 ultra premium. Are you in the same boat?
In the same boat, unless both of them have an extraordinary run of fixtures and Saka and Palmer don't have a good run of fixtures. Like, I think that sort of scenario, if that run sort of presents itself at any point, then you maybe consider it. But until then, no. Because I don't think that run is coming anytime soon where both Saka and Palmer have a terrible run of fixtures and Mo has a great run of fixtures. So that's where I'm. 1 ultra premium and 1 or 2 or 3 mid-price premiums. Let's just call them premiums instead of...
Those are premiums. That's why I call those guys ultra premiums. It's called Palmer, Saka as premiums.
And our definition of premiums is Bruno and above, price-wise?
Yes. Bruno doesn't count from Foden onwards.
Yeah, like that price bracket is what we're looking at. So, yeah, I think 3 premiums and 1 ultra premium is the ideal bracket that I would want to.
You mean? I don't think you can get 3 premiums and 1 ultra premium. 2 premiums and 1 ultra premium.
Like the third one is in my head, Kai. In that price bracket. That's why I was saying Bruno and above.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the guys who are above like 10 million and like Foden and above 9 million. I think you can't get more than 2 alongside.
You can't get more. You can't get more than 2. And if you want to get more than 2, then you need to make some sacrifices around your squad.
The third one would probably be Foden in that case, like a lower end of the price bracket in that.
Yeah, and see, most of us set up with Raya or 4.5 keeper, plus Arsenal defender, plus Rico, plus Trent, plus 2 cheap defenders, right? Like that's been currently that's the primary current template defense. Like immediately regret, Zoff, where in my head I'm like, if I had that 1 million extra from Raya down to Flecken, especially because of the outcome bias of the last 2 games, I wouldn't have minded having Pickford in this position or Flecken for that matter in this position, but you have to back the bets you made. And not mincing my words here, by a distance, Trent is the best defender in the game. Like, I don't think anybody comes close to touching him. I don't think anybody can offer the value he does. He's even a good bet in the fixtures upcoming. Like, you would think that Trent is lucky to have 5 clean sheets out of 7. Trent is also very unlucky to just have 1 attacking return in those 7 games. By balance of things, he should have maybe 4 clean sheets and 4 returns. Or 3 returns, let's say. Let's not exaggerate. 7. So a return a game is reasonable for a player like Trent. So are you willing to sit? And most people are not going to move out of Trent because they don't want to spend their transfers there. Now, if you can go to the fixture taker, because I think this is the right time to discuss that.
So hop on, hop off, or you would look at the difficulty?
Difficulty or either or, I'm not particular. It's just that Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Villa, Southampton, City. Do you want to roll the dice? And if you want to roll the dice, I think you have to almost see it through until game week 13 and then see what you want to do. Or maybe you revisit it in game week 10 to do again. But it's just that
Liverpool distribute the funds around. In no way you can get the funds back for around game week 10, right? Because ultimately you're not going to sell Haaland until like at least 12 or 13, right?
Yeah, but you don't need to distribute the funds. So like the template switcheroo that people are looking at is Trent and Diaz to Foden and any defender in my case 5.7 million or below.
You can even get to
At the
Palmer. Let's say if you go trend down to like a Milinkovic, you can get to a Palmer from a Diaz.
yeah, in your case because you have the money saved from the Raya to
You need what? You need like what 2.7 around. Let's say
yeah.
2.8, like 2.8 out, and then you get like 2.7, 2.8. It's close. Yeah, if it's some money in the bank, you can get there.
Yeah. In fact, I looked at it. I can do it without losing Trent by doing Raya down to a 4.5, by doing Carvalho down to 4.5, and then doing. Oh, shout out to you! Thanks for the Carvalho goal, by the way. I wanted to shout out that. I think it saved my week. Came in clutch at the end of the week, and a lot of people were talking about how he's not starting. He might be a problem now, but how many times are you going to need points from your eighth attacker? When I needed them, I got them, and that's worth its weight
He's
in
already
gold.
paid for his transfer out in that case, right?
Exactly. So shout out to you, Zoff. Listening to Pod Partner works out. And then I can upgrade. I'm about 0.2 or 0.3 short of Diaz to Foden. So the easy move is trend down.
Right,
Do you want
like
to make that?
Because you see, again, we are looking at Lego Mane's hop on, hop off ticker. And Liverpool, this is the point. If you have to jump off, because ultimately look at the good fixtures, Brighton and Southampton are possibly the only good fixtures you'd say. Maybe Villa, because they're at home, but I don't think they'll give up too many goals, right? Villa.
Even 14 is Newcastle away. So I think you have to hop on in Gameweek 15 then.
Right. So if you're moving now is the time. I guess you could potentially delay it to 9 if you wanted, but I would say now is the time to jump off.
Yeah. As things stand, this has been my dilemma all week, and I am 65% inclined towards just chancing my arm.
But
just chancing my arm.
As No Mercy famously said, where do you go?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. And I almost feel like I don't want to go too cheap because I do want points out of my defense. And, I thought about, so the names that were in my head were Ait Nouri, United defender in case Tuchel comes, all the Spurs defenders. Like I was talking to Baker about it.
It's so bad though, defensively, man. It's so painful.
I was talking to Baker and I was like, is it just Porro, or if he's not as attacking now because Maddison and Kulusevski are playing in midfield, then do we go down to like Udogi or Romero or Van de Ven? Do we look at Newcastle defense because now Europe is not going to be a factor for them, and this is when it starts coming in, and they have improved defensively, markedly improved defensively in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Again, the next three entry point isn't it because again Brighton they probably will score, but they probably concede as well. Then Chelsea, Arsenal. I don't like that entry point. You know who I do like, and this is not going to be a popular opinion, is Tarkowski.
Just a second Everton defender.
I mean, you're not playing Mikalenko anyway, right? Mikalenko was sub most week. Tarko, I guarantee you he's going to get one attacking return in those next 5 at least.
Well, why not just chance your arm on Milinkovic, man?
Let me look at Forest games again. Where the Forest on this?
You're getting
Palace,
Leicester,
West Ham, Newcastle home, Arsenal, Ipswich. Yeah, solid shout.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what my gut is. It's Porro.
Yeah, I'd go there, but again, Porro is significantly more expensive, right, than the others.
Also, like low-key, however defensively poor they are, the fixtures are conducive to clean sheets compared to what they would have been otherwise. Like I like the West Ham home tie. I like the Palace away. I like the Ipswich at home tie. I like the Fulham at home tie. And with Porro, you're always getting a chance, even though it's slightly diminished of an attacking return. It's not as high as it used to be. Like it's there. If anybody else has ideas, want to shout out a defender.
The chat is saying Nouri. The chat likes Nouri, and I can see why. From like 9 onwards, the run is absolutely fantastic.
And just bank the cash.
Just bank the cash.
And it's almost like you're also utilizing the potential of Mikalenko as your fourth defender there because he's also very playable in a lot of these fixtures. He's genuinely, and then why not just get an extra million and spend it? So yeah, that's where we are. If we want to make the
I think if you'd ask me, my ranking would probably Porro, Milenkovic, then Nouri, because again, I want my defenders to get clean sheets. Brighton, Palace, Southampton, Fulham, they'll all fancy scoring against Wolves.
I'll pose a sort of stupid question to you. Why not Konate?
Because you're getting those difficult fixtures without the attacking potential. What's the point?
Yeah, you're right? Because Trent is just an attacker. So the moment they clean, he's on for 2 or 3 bones and an attacking return, if anything, man. I am not comfortable selling Trent, though.
I'm
I
not,
tell
and
you that.
that's why I want to go back to the discussion again. Is just one premium enough? Maybe because, for example, we're talking at Saka again after Bournemouth. There's a period where you could potentially hop off Arsenal also, and just decide I'll move to another premium. I'll just keep one premium slot, keep that money in defense, because he's the
Yeah.
highest scoring defender in the game. It's ironic that we're not getting clean sheets and we're looking at selling our only player who is getting those clean sheet points, right?
Yeah. And also, he's not the only route. I think it might be more easier for you than it is for me now that you have a 4.5 million keeper instead of Raya. Like, I think it's easier for you to jiggle your funds in such a way where you can get an extra sort of premium without losing Trent.
Then I have to lose a premium forward. No, sorry, not even the premium forward. The mid-price forward, a Kai, for example, would have to become a Cunha. I don't mind for that fixture run that's coming up.
Kai man, though, he's offering insane value at his price. He's genuinely offering insane value at his price. I was watching this reel that Karl Anka was doing with somebody else, and he's now got 20 in the last 20 in terms of attacking returns. At 8 million, like, he's sort of diminished the value of Ollie Watkins at the moment because he's just like, you're covering Arsenal attack, which is top 3 attack in the league. He's involved in most of the goals. He's the shot monster, in fact. Like, he's still in my head, he's got as much of a chance to haul as much as Saka does, in my opinion. Like, he's just insane values. Should be 9.5 million as a striker, but he's coming to us at 8 million, and I was like, why sell him? Like, it's just fine. Like,
Because the thing is
so,
with us, these top three teams, right? Your City, Arsenal, and Liverpool, they're still going into these difficult games looking to win everyone.
yeah,
They will score goals in each of these fixtures.
guy just feels like a glue to me. Like, until Solanke puts his hand up massively and starts bracing or like triple returning every week, I'm okay. I'm comfortable with Kai.
He's had the
That's where
same number of
I'm.
big chances as Haaland. Anyway, we're getting
Just
ahead of ourselves. We'll revisit that when we come to forwards,
no,
right?
it's okay. A little bit of connection, etc. While we're talking team structures is fine. A little bit of a freestyle pod, yeah. So that's where we are at with Trent. By far the best defender pick in the game, irrespective of the fixtures in the next 5 or 6. But if you want an extra pie of the big hitter dice, then do it. And the problem is that not many people in the 6 to 8 million bracket have stood up. But now fixtures are conducive to a lot of players in that 6 to 8 million bracket because what we are looking at is trying to upgrade that Diaz or Eze or Bruno to a Foden. And even Foden is a sort of dodgy pick at the moment, but I don't mind it because Foden could just be Saka later. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the price sort of structure that matters. But I'm telling you, man, Palace is post hype sleeper pick. Like, Eze still gets 2 or 3 chances every week. He's just not putting them in the back of
He's
the
the
net.
biggest underperformer. I'll show some numbers in the next section.
But look at the fixtures here. Forest away, tough fixture. Then you've got Spurs, Wolves, Fulham, Villa, Newcastle, Ipswich, City, Brighton. It's a good run, man. Secondly, Bruno / United midfielder. If you get a new manager, good run. Spurs. Actually, Brennan Johnson is like, why are you guys looking at everybody else? I'm doing fine. Just get me. You don't need to get Foden. Just get me, and you'll be fine. He's getting what? He's most highest number of shots in the box in the league so far amongst all midfielders. So
Tied with Salah.
that's and let's be honest, we genuinely also don't have a reason to sell Diaz. I think he's going to start Chelsea. Like,
But
my gut
after
feeling.
that, that's a problem, right? That's we just
After that,
discussed it, and that's why we contextualize it. Again, Chelsea, we should mention to our viewers the comments that Slot made about the
yeah,
turnaround from Wednesday to Saturday. He said there was some rotation because of the early kickoff and the game they played on Wednesday. I'm still
yeah,
quite confident that given a full period of rest, Diaz is the first choice, and the advantage is, of course, the game on Sunday.
yeah. I want to also tell our viewers that if you guys know who Josh Williams is from the Anfield rap, we did have a chat with him before the pod, and he's not losing Trent or Diaz. He's like, his advice to me, and I'll quote him, is don't lose Trent. We are a great defense. We're a much better defense for this year than we were. He's a season keeper. And his opinion on Diaz is, yes, Gakpo has done well every time he's come on, but in his opinion, Diaz is firmly first choice. So you know what sort of risk you're taking if you're selling your Liverpool midfielder and attacker. So that's where we are.
Right, but again, we are weighing up, and I think this is not, the advantage of going somebody like Porto is you're obviously keeping more funds in that position, so it's easier to get to Trent later. If you go a
And
four and a
Poro
half,
has like a little upside also, right? There's a
he does.
chance.
He definitely has. He's quite high up on this table. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong image over here. looking at defenders. All defenders, yeah, Porro is still at 5th
for
in terms of
NPXG.
XPX. Yeah.
And
So
Ait Nouri is there, right there at
he's
1.46.
overperformed massively, the 2.54 delta. Porro has actually underperformed 0.51.
Yeah, man. And there's only one defender with XA higher than 2. Nobody else. Nobody else is in the realm of Trent.
That's why I'm still not very comfortable selling. We keep saying 2 premiums. We need the 2 guys, premium guys in midfield. I still don't know if, like, a Johnson can match a Palmer or something in the short term. It sounds crazy to say, given what
Yeah.
Cole Palmer is doing, but just given the fixtures for the 2 sides,
Yeah.
I'm wondering that.
And you know what? I'm almost for it if you're doing it for Palmer, but like doing it for Foden is a little bit of a roll in the dice.
I wouldn't do it for Foden.
Roll of the dice. You know what I'm saying? I'm considering doing it for Foden, but you know me, I want to YOLO this season now. I played too conservative too much, and it's a little bit of risk that you want to take. But yeah, like for Palmer is a short thing. Like I feel like slowly everybody's coming around to the fact that I'm telling you now, if you're getting Cole Palmer in your team tomorrow, it's going to be a while before you sell. It's genuinely going to be a while before you sell him because it is so much fun to own him. And it feels so comfortable and almost guaranteed in terms of points that are going to come into your team every week when you own him. And I'm telling you that comfortably, like he's that good a pick. So if you're doing it for Palmer, I still wouldn't say no, whatever the fixtures Chelsea have in the next few.
Shivam Thakur in the chat makes a good point that Chelsea up against the attacking teams, like we saw, might be better than how they were against Forest, where we struggled. So it's not only the fixture and put you off, but what you said about Palmer, doesn't that apply to Saka as well?
No, I still objectively believe that Palmer is the better premium asset than Saka. I don't want to sit on the fence with this one. I think Palmer is a longer, comfortable hold irrespective of fixture compared to Saka. Whereas Saka is more, okay, you want to play. He's also trickle. I've said it. Palmer just feels more explosive. And I just feel like Palmer has more goals in him. Like, I had the stats. Wait, hold on. Like, I think it was in this season, Saka has something like 13 big chances created and 2 big chances.
Yes.
Whereas Sky has something like 10, 11 big chances and 3 big chances created. So while Saka is amazingly good this season, I just think Palmer's better. And it's not close. It's not easy between the two. But I don't want to mince my words and I say that I think Palmer's better.
We're not here to sit on the fence. I do agree with you. But since you said that now, why don't we think about moving Saka onto Palmer instead and keeping on Trent? Because again, we talked about the run for Arsenal gets a bit tougher after this. Just do Saka to Palmer for the Newcastle fixture when Arsenal play Liverpool.
Yeah, fair enough. So what you're doing then is you're banking a transfer, seeing how Trent does in a tough fixture, and keeping your powder dry and making a more informed decision a week later, which is fine.
And it keeps the structure wise also, right? In terms of, again, it's I'm a bit obsessive about structure needlessly to a certain point, but Trent just feels to me 1.5 million worth more than Porter.
Yeah, I'm with you. He does. There's nobody else as good as Trent as a defender.
Let's just have a look quickly. I have some numbers now for the guys below 5 million.
Let's look at the other premium guys as well, just so that while we're covering that table, we cover that table fully. Leaf Davis is up there, man. Very, very good numbers. It's just that we saw what a team like West Ham have done. I do think that eventually Ipswich will come into their own defensively. It's just not the case yet, seemingly. Gabriel's up there and most of his numbers is goal scoring numbers. I think easy hold. Like is it wrong that I still feel more comfortable about clean sheet chances for an Arsenal player over a Liverpool player, even if the fixtures are difficult?
No, because again, we are conditioned into thinking that Arsenal are a good defensive team from last year. We are not so much so for Liverpool, especially after last year. So it will take some time for that alignment now.
Yeah. Are they at the same level?
I think Liverpool are getting there, but again, they're dependent on the midfield of like McAllister. Gravenberch has been massive for them in terms of control. So in terms of depth, I think Liverpool are a bit weaker, and this run that's coming is really going to try it for them.
Yeah, the depth is going to be tested for sure. And that's my problem with Konate also, because there's good game after good game after good game now. How much will Konate sustain himself in that run also?
Right.
So yeah, Robbo is up there. Romero, Sugawara, Guardiola. What do you think about people that don't have Rico going into Guard?
It's interesting about City now. I think it's a good thing we should talk about because they were very, very open. That's the most open I've seen them against, in the whole Guardiola era. And people are targeting that side now. It's very clear since that Rico side is giving you that guy's jumping into midfield. You have to hit that side now. But Rico himself played quite well. And even when the subs happened, you saw it was Rico who stayed on. A lot of the
Yeah.
other guys who came off. So it's a bit tricky now in the tougher fixtures. You would expect a Walker to start, but they don't have the tougher fixtures. It's the easier
And Walker
games now.
doesn't have the pace. Like even if he did, Walker doesn't like Odama skinned Walker easier than he skinned Rico, if you saw the game. So I think Rico's fine. But what do you think about Guard? Like a good pick, yeah. I
I
actually think
mean,
if
it seems
people
like a luxury pick given that how porous that, because the Rodri thing, we have to accept it. It is having a hit on their defensive potential, and teams are fancying that, okay, we will have a go against City now. So he just seems for 5.9 million for me a price too high.
I'll tell you though, like it's not teams, it's Joe Pesci knowing what he was supposed to do in the game. Like he just did. Adama always plays on the other side. Marco Silva mentioned in his post-match interview as well that I'm just going to play him in this spot. And also, there's Adama in terms of taking a defender on a big gap and then everybody else. So, like, not every other team is going to have a weapon like Adama also. So it's easier said than done to get them. But Adama is very exclusive as a weapon that you can use in that sort of game. And everybody else can't do that. So I'm okay. I think Guardiola's a good pick. Like we know how good he was in these sort of fixtures, but at the moment Rico's the one inverting, so he's not getting into those attacking positions. It's interesting because earlier this season, while we're talking about City, I like that it's a little bit of a freestyle pod. We were talking about City and we spoke about how their play style is two wingers playing the ball into Haaland. And that's what worked for them. In fact, the two games in which they struggled in the last 2 weeks was they're playing the more controlly wingers. They're playing Grealish and Bernardo. Like instead of Doku and Savio, I don't know why Savio's not playing. They look much better with him in the team as well. So, and now we might have Kev back post international break. They were better, but I think a lot of the fact that they were better was because of the wingers. So I don't know why he's not used these wingers in these easy games. So that's going
For
to be
sure.
interesting. Yeah. Do you think Foden's minutes are at risk if Kev is fit too?
Yes, because again, so many competitions, and again, he's not shown himself to be at the level of last season. Once he does hit that, probably will. But I think right now, I think Kev is playing much better. Obviously, it was pre-injury. I expect
Yeah.
the lineups to be balanced a little bit because even the last game I saw, Foden didn't have a single shot in the box. It's just not the same. The mind isn't there yet.
But see the Champions League highlights before that. So I was watching with tunnel vision because he's my next transfer target. He was in the center of the box a lot of the times, and he's just getting up to fitness. So like I like that. In fact, he didn't haul because it keeps the scent off from everybody else. Because I
That's
think
a good point.
when a pick like Foden explodes, right? It comes unannounced. It genuinely comes announced, and he was positioned as the ancillary player next to Haaland. And it's just that the wingers weren't able to find him, and Fulham were very good with their centre backs and defensive setup. So, and Foden's one of those players who has that brace sort of potential because of how much of a like he's an elite ball striker, much like Palmer is, right? Like his shots. People need to understand that XA and XG for Trent counts more than everybody else. XG for Palmer weighs more than XG for Jackson for that matter because he's a better finisher, like Son. I think the same applies to Foden. I think he was one of the highest performers in the league when it comes to underlying data versus goals and assists. But because I think he's that good of a ball striker. So I'm just worried about his minutes, but I want to chance him. I'm not going to lie.
That's a good shot. As we're having this discussion now, I am thinking that I would like to get now Diaz instead of I'm willing to move on Saka to Palmer and Diaz to Foden. These are the two premiums I want to target for
That
the
would be
next
my
couple of
structure
weeks.
if I had a sell Trent.
And for that, actually, don't mind selling Trent, man, because those feel like discernible, visible, tangible upgrades.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I said Diaz, man, we were all like salivating at the mouth for getting him into our team. He was that good. Is this a one benching in one game has put us off?
No,
Like,
not
is
really.
it
I think I still
is
like him, but again, it's like it comes down to the potential, right? It comes down to the
yeah,
fixtures they're playing, and again, the congestion.
yeah. And so when I'm thinking about that move, in my head I was justifying that move. I'm bookending with. So yes, Chelsea might still be a good fixture for Diaz, but the second game is Arsenal away, which is the toughest fixture in the league for anybody. So you're chancing for two games. So are you giving, in my case, Phil Foden Wolves away and Southampton at home versus Chelsea and Arsenal? So I'm sort of justifying the move to myself that. And I'm if it doesn't work, I sell him. If it works, then he's got three more great fixtures as well to chance his arm on. So that's where I am.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. Know yourself as a manager. Know yourself how much on tilt you go if your structure is screwed and if Trent immediately assists and keeps a clean sheet against Chelsea, which is possible. So just have to know yourself as a manager.
Yeah, because you can play both sides of that argument. And again, let's just jump into the midfielders discussion. And ultimately, like, see, because again, I'm thinking now Saka is only 0.8 million more than Foden. And you're getting somebody who's nailed for 90 minutes, nailed on penalties.
Yeah.
Is that it might be worth just spending that 0.8 million. Why am I thinking of losing Saka then?
Yeah, you're right. Saka's fine as a whole, completely fine. No problem with him. What are his fixtures like, man?
Saka's fixtures? Let me show you.
Not bad, man. Just Liverpool at home, which is slightly tough. After Newcastle away, Chelsea away. You don't mind them from an attacking perspective for
No, because
Saka,
Chelsea are
man.
porous. Even
Yeah,
Newcastle, I think they're decent, but they are porous now.
yeah. It depends on which lens you put on, right? It depends on which narrative you want to build. Because you also look at Newcastle, Chelsea, and Forest. Three not easy defenses
Yep, but
after
when you look
Arsenal.
at City, Wolves,
Yeah,
Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton,
yeah,
that's obviously a better run. You can't tell me. But
yeah,
again, it's a minutes, X minutes. It's a deeper layers than that.
yeah. I'm talking to you. I'm telling you, I want to buy the ticket to the Foden lottery. Like you won't get that hat trick if you don't buy the ticket, though.
Absolutely.
Whatever said and done. And I feel like the edge this season, right? We've spoken about it, is trying to catch these hauls while they are not differential. Like I managed to catch a 25-point haul from Palmer while he wasn't a differential. I think Foden, if he bangs Wolves away, everybody's getting him Southampton at home. Everybody. Nobody's not getting him Southampton home. Everybody's doing Saka to Foden in game week 9 the moment Foden gets a goal and assist against Wolves. It's just what's going to happen. So it's not even the shelf life of these mid-price premium isn't that high also when you're trying to spike 10, 15 points because everybody's going to captain Haaland. At least most people who are going to have him was going to captain Haaland for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So where is your edge? Where are the other points coming from? The other points are coming from the premiums. And that's where
Good
we are.
shout. Good shout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have a look at some of the data. First up, the team attack. Let's before we lump into the individual numbers. Spurs are right on top, 15. It's quite by a distance. Chelsea second, 13. Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. Bournemouth being up there is a bit surprising, but I think the fixtures have flattered them a little bit.
Yeah. Pictures have flattered them a little bit. And my problem with Bournemouth is I feel like the goals will be spread around. So while I
You were
was,
spot on with Semenyo. I remember when we were all hyping up Semenyo, you mentioned that there's a lot of noise there in
yeah,
terms of that. Like, we keep expecting, Semenyo is going to be the talisman now. But again, it could be Clivert, Tavernier, Cook, as we're seeing
Evanilson,
nowadays, Evanilson.
anybody. So I don't feel like he's the talisman in the team. So I'm okay. Swerving back. He got you the goal 1 and 2 is what you expect from a player at his price, which is fine.
Yeah, but I'm looking at them now, wishing I hadn't parked that much money there when I'm going to be playing Rogers so much.
Yeah. Save a transfer and make structure. I think if you work around a move, see if a triple move without selling Trent gets you to the double premium structure. I think it's possible.
I think you can get to Foden, but getting to Palmer is a bit harder without selling Saka.
Then I don't think you can own two in that 10.6 million bracket unless you downgrade Trent.
Absolutely.
Or Gabriel. So that's the thing.
I mean, yeah, Gabriel not so much again, because Gabriel, I feel it's more of a chance of getting a goal in the tougher fixtures, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel that about Trent because he's shown that he's willing to have his fullbacks drop deep a little bit in the tougher games.
But Trent has a free run, man. It's a narrative we're building to comfort themselves.
It's true. And again, that's what I mentioned that right at the top. We have to be wary of building the narrative.
And I think we should tell each other when we're doing that because I think it'll help us as managers as well. So
correct. So let's got the data, the team data out of the way.
Brighton. Let's discuss some of the other teams. Yeah, I want to discuss some of the other teams. West Ham, for however miserable they've been there, mid park, man.
Keep in mind though, lot of this is at Ipswich game.
A lot of that is Ipswich game.
Close
what
to
are the fixtures
XG,
like?
4 XG for the Ipswich game alone. Take that out and they're somewhere in the bottom.
And the run isn't still great. They've got Spurs away, United home, Forest away, Everton, Newcastle and Arsenal. I think West Ham we're looking at in Game Week 14. Not before that.
Similarly for Brentford also. A lot of that XG is against Wolves.
Yeah. But I'm just happy owning Boomo, no problem.
Look how low Villa are.
Exactly. They haven't clicked. They're playing in third gear. I mentioned to you, they seem like a moments team to me where they play football that's decent for 20, 25 minutes. They haven't clicked into gear yet. Though I think I rate the manager. And once Kamara comes into a system, he'll figure it out. So like this perception shouldn't be stuck in our head when it comes to Aston Villa because they will improve. At that time, not many people are going to have Watkins. So you have to see, you almost have to be ruthless with the timing of these sort of 8 million plus assets to get those.
And it can bank. It can completely hurt you the other way. It can just happen because these guys in a tough fixture, they can get a haul. So that's just the nature of the season. Newcastle also at 8.88 in 7 matches is very poor.
Yeah. It's what they do now that's going to be interesting because they will likely have Wilson and Isak fit post the international break. So that team hasn't clicked yet so far, but they should click. And it might take some time or it might happen immediately. But when they do, I think you jump on them immediately because this is the team where not having Europe, etc., the more the season passes, the more it's going to add up in their favor. So we just need to keep that in mind.
Then you have the guys at the bottom of the budget forwards who we are invested in. You have Forest, Everton, Leicester, Ipswich, your Vardis, Delaps, and all that stuff. All pretty much
Yeah.
all the same.
Yep. Yep.
Not
What
much.
Mitoma? What do you think about Mitoma at that price bracket?
Fantastic player, man. But again, because of the fixtures, I don't think we're really considering them. The fixture run is horrific.
Newcastle away, Wolves at home, Liverpool away, City at home. Then you get your Brighton attackers in Gameweek 12.
And he seems nailed. If you ask me who's nailed out of that entire front four, I'd say Mitoma's the only one who really doesn't have any competition.
Agree.
Gone under the radar.
Okay, well, before we move to all midfielder conversations of, it's your birthday. I
Not
think
yet. Tomorrow.
it's almost fitting that you should do the like subscribe plug right now because people will send you a birthday gift.
Right, guys. So I'll put up the image also on the screen. Do hit us a like and subscribe. We're doing this pod just to look back at the season so far. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a more of a casual pod where we take stock. So we'd appreciate that. It helps us a lot with getting the content out there.
Cheers. Right, so names that we haven't discussed here. I think we've already spoken about Palmer and Saka. Maddo, man. He's doing
Those
really
numbers are really good. I was surprised when I was seeing this. Obviously, now the goal is fortuitous, the one they got against Brighton, but Madison's back on it.
Yeah, Madison's back on it and Madison's playing central. That said, I do feel like BJ is the better chance getter. But when I'm trying to weigh them up in my head, right, I feel like outside of Solanke, Johnson gets the best chances in that team. But I also feel like once Son comes in instead of Werner, we might see a different shift in dynamic in terms of how that team plays. Because I also feel like Son and Madison have sort of like an underrated understanding between them as well. And Werner's sort of template, beat the man and cross on the far post, right? Like that's his way of playing. That's not what Son does. So I want to see the dynamic. And then I think there's a midfielder from Spurs that's there for the taking as a pick. Genuinely could be the pick in that 7 million bracket, whether that's Brennan Johnson, Madison, or even Kulusevski. We'll find out.
So I was watching the Planet FPL pod, and I'm always interested to hear James' views on Spurs because a lot of
Shout out to him. He's flying. Top 5K. Well
Absolutely,
done, James.
Man. You have to show that there's no right way to play this game this year. He's just doing it different and doing well for it. So what he did mention is that, that we are potentially making too much of Solanke having 0 shots in that game. Solanke, people are saying that Solanke might not be getting in the center of the box, might not be getting the service. A lot of it is to do with no Son being there. It's not necessarily he's going to be playing with his withdrawn deeper role, and it also could have been more of a tactical thing because we know how Brighton play to get those runners in, right? In the channels, for example, like a deep block against West Ham, I expect Solanke to be getting a lot more service. I don't like that West Ham game as much for a Johnson as I do for a Solanke.
I agree with you. Full sense. Agree. Like Johnson's not going to get those free runs in that game against West Ham as he did against Brighton. Same with United. We were open. It suited to Johnson's skill set more than it suited to then the West Ham game.
Right. So just now getting back now to the Madison point, Madison with 5.12 has actually underperformed in terms of returns. -1. You see Palmer and Saka, they've actually massively overperformed their underlying data, and so has Salah. And of course, these are good players. You expect good players to outperform their XG always, right? XG is for your average players. That's a number over there. But Boomo, I think clear standout in that price bracket. The numbers are just getting better and better every week.
Just a spot in which we don't want to spend transfers. And to spend transfers on the big guys, you need to have a Boomos.
Correct. And Brennan is, of course, an interesting one. I think at 6.5, looking at the other guys in that bracket, there's nobody else who comes close to his potential.
There is Eze. I can't shake off the feeling that if this was Joe's explosion imminent table, he'd be right above.
Absolutely. And -2.54 on the delta.
And I don't think he's a bad finisher. I think he's a good finisher. I just think it's a small bad patch and he will come back with shining colors, man. I genuinely think he's like a sleeper pick right now, Eze. So I wouldn't write him off. That's all. And I feel like the turn
finisher, but I think there's something mentally that's not there, right? Because both of the finishes against Liverpool, you'd have expected him to do better. They were straight at the keeper.
Same with United. He had such chances against us also. He didn't put the game to bed. But I think it'll come. I think he's a class act, and I think it'll come. And I think he's one that we need to be very careful of writing off if especially if you're an Eze owner, that oh, you've had a bad experience with him when you own him. People fall into that sort of psychological trap sometimes where okay, I've had 6 weeks of no returns from Eze, I'm never gonna get him again. No. That's it's almost like a trap that you fall into. So just keep him in your mind because he's a good player and that team is going to click and that player is elite. Things will happen.
Let's just have a look at Palmer and Saka's data real quick. Now, like you said, Palmer XA 1.68, Saka 3.16, nearly double.
Yeah.
And now Palmer has nearly double the XG.
Highest XG in that table.
That's one penalty also, right? I think, yeah, there's one penalty, discount that, but even then significantly high.
Yeah. Highest non-pen XG also.
Yes. Just ahead of Salah.
Just ahead of Salah. So he's in my head.
I'm just calculating. I'm just backtracking now. He got around 2 versus Brighton. Let's assume he knock out 1 from that. Just because let's say call it an anomaly, right? Because of noise. Even then, the number is significantly higher than the others.
What is the noise you said that he should have gotten 1 less?
Brighton. Let's say I think he had close to 2 XG or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just like assume that was like a normal-ish game, that it won't happen again. Just to get a prediction of the future, let's cut off 1 XG from that.
Yeah.
To sort of normalize the data a little bit. It's still high.
Still high. And take into consideration, in my opinion, he's the best finisher out of everybody on this table at the moment. Genuinely. Like he's Son level with his finishing ability also. That's the perception of Palmer. It's whether you believe he's elite or not, and I believe he's elite.
And again, the Forest game was very, very closely watching his positioning. He wasn't getting into the box much initially, but as soon as he got more control into the game, he's just taking those shots again. It says there are no big chances, but the double save that Sells made, I classify that as a big chance any day of the week for Palmer.
Yeah, exactly, man. And he almost sort of IRL ability-wise had a slight off game, I thought, but still so good, still so dangerous. And he's capable. He's done it twice now. He's capable of these 2, 3, 4 returns in any game.
John is asking a good point. When do you think we will want Salah back?
It's an important question. Because, when we're talking about Diaz, right, one of the ways I was justifying it is I feel like maybe Diaz and Gakpo are much closer in competition than Jota and Darwin. I feel like Jota's more first choice compared to Darwin than Diaz is versus Gakpo. So I'm like, if I lose Diaz, eventually in 3 weeks when their fixtures do turn better, I'll get Jota, who I feel like might be the pick. I don't know, we're changing our opinions and dilly-dallying here. But Salah, this schedule is going to get to him.
You saw the sub. We saw a 70th minute sub, and that too when they're not controlling the game. The game was in the balance at that point. Palace were the better team in the second half.
And he's getting 1 or 2 moments in the second half of the game. He doesn't feel as dangerous. And let's be honest, he's competing against 2 of the young guns in the league, Saka and Palmer.
Plus 2.5 million.
Plus 2.5 million, and Saka and Palmer are just giving us no reason to look at him at the moment.
That's the if you ask me, the answer would be when Haaland gets injured or when I decide to go without Haaland.
Yeah. Or it's a great run of fixtures. Like I am not ruling out that when Salah in game week 10 has Brighton at home, Villa at home, Southampton away, we might not look at him. And that's one of the reasons why I'm okay to sell Trent, because I'm like, even if I want to consider Salah in that period, I will need money from Trent. Conversely speaking, Trent also has Brighton, Villa, and Southampton. But you don't mind that because Brighton and Villa are not clean sheet fixtures.
There's a difference between that. They're definitely attacking fixtures and more defensive fixtures.
So that's the other justification in my head where I'm like, I don't mind it because I might want Salah also. And he might be an uber differential at that point. So
just a quick look at the data at the mids now under 7.5. So 7.5 under rather. It includes Maddison. Semenyo's numbers again are good. McNeil numbers are decent, and I think McNeil now does have legit goal threat. We shat on him a little bit. I think McNeil is a legit good option. If you ask me below 6 million today, he's my preferred pick.
I do have one that got added to my list this week.
Tell us.
Buonanotte. I thought he was really good, and he's quietly got 2 goals, 2 assists this season, which isn't nothing. So, if somebody, and I feel like he's first choice in that Leicester team. So if somebody wants somebody to rotate with a Rodgers, who's sort of nailed on, that comes cheap as well, I don't mind him. I want to put that name in the mix.
The chat agrees with your Game Week 10 point on Salah, by the way.
What did they say?
They say that, yeah, that's when they'll be possibly looking at getting him in if you can.
Yeah. So that's that. Nobody else. What about Kudus, man? Interesting at 6.3 because he comes a million cheaper than Bowen still. 6.3 is actually not a very high price to play for him. So I think Gameweek 12 we discussed earlier is a good fixture run for West Ham. Might be
Again,
interesting to
so
look.
the thing is,
look.
West Ham's data is all massively inflated. I think he had 1.5 or something XGI
Yeah.
against Ipswich alone. You cut that out to a more normalized number, they're not going to be playing Ipswich again in the next 5-10 games, right?
Yeah.
It drops a lot.
Yeah. And also just keep a look at the United midfielders. If you get a new manager, there's a new manager bounds to take advantage of there as well.
Garnacho is on my radar.
Yeah. The problem is with the slight dodginess when it comes to the minutes, right? So once that goes off, you can go there. Rashford's actually looked decent.
Yeah. Decent, but could have been sent off. That's a separate
Could have been
discussion.
separate discussion, yeah.
I think that's about it. But yeah, in terms of
Go back. One name I just want to touch upon. Is Martinelli now first choice?
I think Martinelli has always been first choice. It's just the output hasn't there, but then it seems to be coming back now.
Yeah. Like I think we need to monitor that spot in just terms of names to monitor in that price bracket because Calafiori unlocks Martinelli. He's really, really good for Martinelli. So we just need to watch that space very carefully because he might be great at 7 million.
Yeah, because Sterling is catastrophic, man. I can't say enough about how bad Sterling is. So bad.
You've been saying it since episode 1 of this podcast, man.
Episode 1 of the inception of the podcast.
Exactly. Episode 1, season 1, episode 1. Our title was It Makes Me Emotional or something of that sort.
It was an emotional time.
It was an emotional time. Reference to Raheem Sterling. So he's the cult legend of this podcast, man.
Yeah, him and Chris Wood pretty much.
Yeah.
Good time to say, before we go into our forwards, let's do a sleeper plug.
Sure. Hey, we're very happy to...
in this, my bad. Just go ahead.
Yeah, you do the windows while I'll just mention that we are now sitting second in the Draft of Legends League, and we have number 1 FPL mate who we're going to be facing this week. It was a tough battle against Gianni, and actually it was the Pickford clean sheet and penalty save that got us over the line, and Saka did his bit as well. So yeah, I'm hoping that we win this top of the table clash against them. And this is an international break, and if you're not already playing a draft league, setting one up so that you have something to do in the international break is probably the best time to do it. So, download the app and set up a draft with your friends, with your colleagues, whatever you want to. It's just nice to have something to do in the international break as well.
It's fun, and it's also more engaging. For example, we are doing right now a draft league with our Discorders, right? By the way, I was up against you last week when you had Palmer.
I know that.
And this week I was up against Karan, who had bloody Kovacic.
Karan beat you with Kovacic.
No, I just scraped through by 1 point because I had Saka, fortunately.
Lovely. That was a nice time, man. So yeah, man, just download the app and start playing the drafts. And if you want to join the Pick'em League as well, we've been talking about it multiple times. You just need to select the result.
Jerseys out soon again, right? A second round of jerseys are going out now.
Yeah. So I told in my head, I said that I'll do that bit of admin after today's pod. I wanted to focus on doing that, and then tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start getting the jerseys out as well. Every month we're giving out 4 Premier League kits. So it's worth joining our Discord for and then playing Pick'em with us.
Good question now from, I think, Ujjan. He's asking about the best enabler below 5 million, since we didn't really cover that. I just spent some time on that because I think I'm a bit cold on Carvalho now, I guess, with the minutes, right? I think, who do you say, Dibbling?
I mentioned Bruno Notte.
So the couple of guys who FPL Harry got from Leicester, was it Mavdidi or something like that?
He got Mavdidi. It's because the fixtures are ridiculously good still. Southampton away, Forest home, Ipswich away, United home, Chelsea, Brentford away, West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle Wolves. It's just a good run all the way till 17. So that's a shout maybe. I would say spend a little more on Kit McNeil.
Yeah, McNeil, or even what's your thoughts on Adama versus like a Rodgers today? I still think I prefer Rodgers.
Yeah, and if you're going Adama, I would say just trust the talent of Dibbling then.
Yeah, Dibbling was good even against Arsenal. Showed some glimpses.
And bottom price, you're getting some great fixtures. Just go Dibbling then.
He mentioned now, I think Russell Martin also, that these games are not the ones that will define our season. We have 3 games he said 3 out of our next 4 are against teams around us, and we have to target to win those.
And I'll say till 60th minute, they had done a fabulous job. They did not give many chances to Arsenal.
They
It's only in the
adapted, huh?
last.
We expected them to
They
play the same company style, like full free-flowing attacking thing, but they
no,
adapted.
no. And the last 30 minutes is only when they got done for and the quality came through. So yeah, that's that.
Move on to forwards. Shout out to our boy Havertz, who we are talking about. He's third now in this list, just behind Jackson.
Yeah. Let's talk about Haaland and City
We have
because a
to.
lot of people are talking about the impact of Rodri, etc. What are your thoughts of?
Now let's have a look at the data prior. I think Rodri got injured in that Arsenal game, right? So
Yeah, but he didn't play the first 3 games either.
right. That's a good point you make. I think people just I completely missed that actually. So yeah, so the XG data you see is healthy without Rodri as well, but I think this is with Kev.
Yeah. And Kev is back.
Kev is back, and this is when he wasn't playing the control wingers either. He was playing
Yeah,
your Savio and your Doku.
exactly. And like I was talking to Rahul, it's a great City account, and I go into his DMs and trying to understand Pep's tactics, etc. as well. And he's like, in the last 1 or 2 games, Pep is obsessed with control because of the insecurity of losing out on Rodri, which is why you're seeing Kovacic and Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, etc. in there. And he was surprised that the wingers didn't play in the game against Fulham. But he's like, eventually he'll come through. But at the moment, he's just a little too obsessed with with control. But in my head, I'm like, it's Pep Guardiola. It's the best manager in the league. Also, there's a little bit of good news coming out, right? So I feel like the vibe in that club is better with Pep looking likely that he's going to extend the contract for 2 more years. That's the rumors that we've seen amongst the leakers as well, and that they shouldn't have any problems. So, so the dressing room will be great. It's a great team. It's the best manager in the league, and there's just great world class players that will figure it out. That's my bet with City. Like I think the 2 games are an anomaly, and an experienced Fulham with a good manager did their thing, but more often than not, in the next 5 games, City will score 2+ goals. They
I'd
scored
agree.
2+ goals against Fulham too.
And again, I think we should mention that a lot on this pod. Like we are all very pro Haaland, but there is life outside Haaland as well. There
Yeah,
are so many people who are in the top 10,000 thousands who are without Haaland, and we just spoke about how good the other premium options are. That
yeah.
being said, I don't think this is the time when you make your bet against Haaland.
In fact, if you've been without Haaland, I would suggest now is the time to get him.
Who would you
It's in
sacrifice amongst the midfielders? I think you would sacrifice Salah, Saka, or Palmer.
Salah.
Easier, right? Frees up the most money as well.
Yeah, Salah. Easily sacrifice Salah. That's where you do it. Now is the time to get Haaland. Like I
Yeah,
don't think now you chance your arm
we even sit on the
because
fence.
yeah, and it's like yeah, Wolves are going to play extremely deep. The Wolves beat them, by the way, at the Molineux last year, if I remember correctly.
They did.
But like it's just not the same defensive setup at the moment. They're losing Kilman for them is a huge problem, and the defensive midfielders and the defenders are not as good as they should be. They conceded 11 shots through headers to Brentford. So man, Haaland captain is nailed on, and I want to get some extra points because there's just always the potential for 3+ goals in these games, and I like that out of all the clubs that are in Europe, I think City have the easiest European fixtures,
That does
and I
make a
think
difference.
that counts for something.
That being said, I do remember Dawson having a couple of good games against Haaland. Maybe I'm wrong, but something in that is in my memory. But it's just the fixtures even after that, man. They're just fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to a Lego Mane hop on, hop off guy. I think this is of relevance now. You see the next 4 fixtures over here. None of the other
Five.
premiums in Tottenham.
Five.
Obviously, Tottenham should be in the thing. So the next 5 over here are fantastic.
Just great. That's why I want Phil Foden's off. I just want to like buy the
I
lottery.
can see the appeal, and I'm very tempted as well. But I'm just like, I just love watching Saka now, man. Saka
Yeah.
is just fantastic. But there's something about Saka, and again, this is something from Planet FPL. Can you guess his average XG per shot?
0.05.
Something like that. It's 0.07, 0.08. Just so many poor quality shots he takes. Because we go to the numbers again, we see Saka's way up top for shots, but XG per shot is so low compared to your Palmer.
I didn't want to mention it. I've held back all God, but that goal was lucky, right? Like there was no
It was absolutely lucky because the defender put it into his path.
there was no open chance shot for Saka throughout the game. So like that's it.
Okay, it's a
I'm
balance
not
out of what happened the previous week. That's what
It
we are
is a
looking at
balance.
it. Ultimately, like the
It's
two
a,
games balance each other out.
they do balance it out. Not gonna lie. Definitely balance each other out. So that's my thing. And it's just that for every Saka, there's a Palmer and a Haaland, right? So that's the comparison that's gonna be. I actually think Saka might be top three. I think Haaland, as things stand, Haaland, Saka, and Palmer are the three top premium mid-price premium midfielders in the game, and they're almost like if you stick with the three of them, you're fine, and you move around the chopping. There's a probably a way of playing with just these three and then rotating everybody else in your squad
That's
too.
what
So
AK has been in my ear about. He's just like, just get your Haaland, get your Saka and Palmer, and just stick with that. Just work around the rest of your team. He said even Trent is not as essential as the
yeah,
other three
I mean,
guys.
shout out to Nick from who got the assist, X who got the assist. He's sitting in top 500, and that's what he's done. He's not owned Trent since his Game Week 3 wildcard, and he's had Saka, Palmer, and Haaland, and he's reaping the benefits.
Very tempting. Again, that's the appeal over Foden, right? Just guaranteed security of minutes every game.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but you can so what my logic is, right? And eventually I want Saka. Look at this table here. So I'm just chancing my arm for Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, giving Foden the prime fixtures. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll make the shift in 12, 13. Or if it doesn't work out, I'll make the shift in 10 to Salah. So that's the sort of
And like you said, if he bangs versus Wolves, everyone and their dog is moving because it's a move down. You don't need money from anywhere.
Yep. Yeah. Sokan is mentioning Saka's punishing me again. I just want to say that I'm sitting on a million green arrow since the last 2 weeks, since the wild card. And even it worked out. Like the theory that I had in my head of letting Havertz sort of be fine for Saka and getting Palmer instead has not been bad. It's worked out. So I got 53 this week. And thanks to your boy Carvalho who got me over the 50-point mark. Otherwise, it would have been not that fun. But yeah, man, it's possible. It's just too many good players this year.
Absolutely.
Saka is,
That's what's
even.
Go ahead.
I want to shout out about Saka also that in my head, his goal threat has gone up this year. He's just not spending time wide. He's inside the box, inside the D many, many times. Every time the ball is coming from that side, he's there at the far post. It's not like he's being wide and creating. It just looks like his goal threat has gone up this year. I don't even want to see what the XG numbers extra are saying. When I'm watching Arsenal play, Saka's closer to goal than he was last year.
But the shot quality, I guess, is a bit different also without Odegaard in the team, right? And what Southampton did very clearly, they double marked him. At that point, I was noticing he was struggling to get into the box a bit. He was, but then again, he's shooting and there are 4 defenders in front of him. Most of his shots you see are blocked shots.
Yeah. Saka's up there, man. Like, he will get more shots. He will get more goals also. And especially in these sort of games that he has. Like, Bournemouth is a great Saka game. Like, I see a goal there. Like a non-lucky goal there.
I think this was this fixture last season where I think he gave the penalty to Odegaard or he would have had a hat-trick. Something like that.
And even that will get its due, right? He's not had a penalty so far. It'll come.
It's coming.
Yeah.
But again, I'm willing to move him on after Bournemouth and then come back later.
I would say assess after Bournemouth.
Right. And I think it's a bit easier for us also because I know Havertz isn't a coverage, quote unquote, for Saka, but you do feel you have some investment in the Arsenal attack. Because in terms of goal threat, when we look at the numbers here, it's clear that Kai is their main goal threat now.
Yeah. And Kai there is a case for Kai being a set and forget at his price. Genuine case.
It's ridiculous to get a nailed on Arsenal attacker because 90 minutes in this international injury.
Arsenal forward. Let's not mince our words. Arsenal forward. He is the Arsenal number 9.
Yes, and this whole international injury thing is bollocks, if you ask me. He's just being preserved because he's played so many minutes. He plays 90 in the Champions League, plays 90 on the weekend. It's pure prayer preservation.
Yeah. Right. Jackson, your boy, man.
He might be getting a 3-match ban. So you have to watch out for that because he slapped someone when we had that whole altercation. And another thing you have to keep in mind, I think he's on 3 yellows now. So he's got only 3 game weeks he should get over the line. But I don't know. I've never been a big on Jackson as an FPL option. It just feels like there's just an Nkunku run coming in the team any day.
And Havertz is better at that price point in Solanke. He's competing with Havertz and Solanke. So both of them are better.
Yeah, he's not as talismanic. He's just so frustrating to own. I'll never be a Jackson guy.
Watkins, Villa haven't been the best team so far. So until you see them on it, I'm happy to avoid Watkins. The moment I see Villa, is like, okay, that's a great performance, I'll jump on Watkins. That's my stance with them.
So despite those earlier blanks, like you remember the misses he had, he still overperformed plus 2.11. Because of the recent games, he's had just one chance, one goal.
Yeah.
Like against Ipswich were the better side.
Yep.
But yeah, Havertz numbers over the NPXG 4.38 is very good. XN is virtually non-existent, 0.2. That just shows
Yeah.
full-on goal threat.
Yep. Cunha,
Haaland,
man, interesting because
Cunha is
people
very
are,
interesting to me.
yeah, everybody who might get impatient with DCL at some point is going to look at Cunha.
Let's talk
Or
about these budget guys, right? Your DCL, Wood, Cunha, etc., etc. And even now, I guess Jimenez and Muniz is a bit murky. Muniz came on and scored. That might change
no,
around a
him as
little
his
bit.
first choice right now. He's
What an
offering. He's
assist, right?
just a better player.
I love the assist.
Love the player also. Love
We've always
Raul.
been
Like,
Jimenez fans. Prior to the injury, he was being touted as going to Juventus, playing
yeah,
all these Champions League teams.
yeah,
It's good to see.
yeah. It'll be interesting once Isak or Wilson come into the conversation because I think those are talismanic people. Like remember your run with Isak at the end of last year. So until Newcastle click, but the one that I'm interested right now is Cunha, man. Just seems great in the Wolves' attack hasn't been that bad. Whatever you say of them defensively, their attack is still good. So Cunha is interesting for an insane run of fixtures. And also keep an eye out for Vissa now, 5.9.
On the
Like the
grass, but I
moment,
think mid-November, early November is when they're expecting him.
it could be next week also. Like I don't know.
Nah,
Like
not that early, because I think we'll see a couple of bench appearances before.
yeah, but like he could just be a pick. Why not him over everybody else? Because Brentford are fine. So that's where we are.
Because and again,
And Chris,
Bomo is now pretty much approaching close to 100% EO amongst your active
yeah,
players. So again, he's
yeah.
like your Foden edge to your Haaland. What about Danny Welbeck?
You know who I'd go if I was saving money and going 6 million or below? Strand Larson.
Yeah, that's another. This is the guy I wanted to talk about next, because again, the fixtures, right? Just for that
Yeah.
fixture play, he's been getting consistent minutes.
And he's a good player, man. He's genuinely a good player. That finish was excellent. This game as well. I think he's a good player. I think like if ever we want to save money, Stan Larson is the guy. Like I feel like he's going to be in and amongst the goals. I like him. I like what I've seen from Woods from an attacking point of view. The fixtures are there. And he's 5.5, man. A gift, a snip at that price.
Underpriced. I think 6 would have been more fair, but he does pretty much centre
It's
forward.
something to remember as of if ever we want like 0.5 for a move that we can't make, which is like a Diaz to a Saka, for example, or Palmer in your case. Like that's a place to look for money. Like DCL down to Strand Larson.
Yeah, and who can potentially become a Joao Pedro in the future as well in that bracket.
Yep.
But let's talk about the budget guys first. Calvert-Lewin and your Chris Wood, both the teams we saw not very high on the XG table. Like Calvert-Lewin, it was a bit worrying to watch that game. As like, somebody at home you're racking up only 0.25 XG, but the only one big chance they did get fell to Calvert-Lewin.
And Newcastle's Newcastle, man. Like they're in a good run of good defensive movement. I think the next 3 fixtures are better for DCL. So I'm okay.
That's
Happy
pretty
to
much
be.
what it is where I am with DCL. I want to give him the Ipswich game. And then after that, depending on how he performs, he's up for debate for me, because I think Southampton are significantly better team than Ipswich in terms of what they offer. I think they'll have a lot more possession against Everton.
Yeah, but also that means more chances for Everton. Like
yeah, that's true. They play on the counter.
Exactly. So that's fine. So I don't mind it, man. And I think everybody needs to think 3 or 4 times before spending transfers in these spots, because you need to look back and assess where do I want to spend transfers. So if you have Saka, Palmer, and Haaland in place, fine. But these are the high impact positions if you don't own these guys. And like whichever way you flip the DCL Wood Strand Larson coin, it's not going to be a massive swing. So, it's all right if you delay that transfer by a week or 2. It's fine. Just think about where you want to spend your transfers.
But again, spending, let's say DCL right now is 6, so Solanke is 7.6. Is spending that 1.6 worth it? Because keep in mind, that's also the difference between a Foden and a Palmer.
Yes, I think it's an upgrade.
I think I don't like having 2 of those spots, because remember in the draft also I put up for the wildcard, I had Havertz and Solanke, and I realized that structurally that creates a bit of a problem in the rest of your team. You're not going to be able to get those 2 Palmers, even if you sell Trent, if you have 2 of those guys. I think
and especially if you were looking at Salah also. If you're looking at Salah also. So.
Yes, yeah, I think you need to have that one budget forward slot, and I don't mind having one of your Solanke, Havertz, Jackson in that mid-price forward brackets, because there is value there as well. You can hop on, hop off according to fixtures.
For sure.
But if you are picking today, who would be your budget forward?
Strand Larsen.
Even with the Man City, give them the Man City one and just keep him after.
Yeah. Because money
Money,
is the
I,
cheapest.
I'd say like Cunha because it just seems like more roots to point, more trusted. And I just have this thing on the back of the mind that Wang hasn't been a factor at all this season. At some
Yeah.
point, you might see Wang get a run, so Strand Larsen, because this O'Neill guy might get sacked any day.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, Strand Larsen is like the focal point. He's a good player. I believe in the talent from him.
I guess I need to watch them a bit more closely. But yes, but like you like him over like a Jimenez who's in the same bracket.
Yes. The fixtures. The fixtures are gold for a
Fixtures are
long
not bad
time.
for Fulham also. Let's go back
Yeah.
to because this is just going to hop on ticker over here for Fulham now. After Villa, it's Everton, Brentford, Palace, Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton
For Fulham.
for Fulham.
Yeah, it's just Fulham, right? The reverse could happen. A bad game or two from Jimenez and Muniz is in the conversation.
That's
I
the
don't think
issue.
that same
That's
thing
the issue. Yeah,
happens
that's the
with.
main thing, right?
Yeah, I don't think the same thing happens with Strand Larsen. I think he's clear first choice striker.
So you wouldn't be picking DCL even with those Ipswich Southampton fixtures next.
I just think the money is worth it. Like I
It's
know
not
for a
that much.
fact
It's
that
only 0.5.
yeah, but that 0.5 counts for a lot. I knew that if I made a couple of structural changes in my team. So just citing to you, if I went DCL down to Strand Larsen, if I went Carvalho down to Dibbling, and if I go Raya down to Pickford, for example, I can do Foden to I can do Diaz to Foden without selling Trent. So you know what I'm saying? Like the structure is solid. So I think these roughing around the edges, maybe you need to start doing that by managing your money in such a way that in the future you can have Palmer, Saka, Haaland.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
let's just do a quick ranking. Obviously, Haaland is in another bracket. Your mid-price forwards. Who's your pick?
Yeah.
Havertz. I think we've already said enough about him.
Yes.
You wouldn't like
Kai.
Solanke even with the fixture run after this?
I will get Solanke the moment he feels like he's a lot better than Havertz. Havertz feels like a more of a sure thing at the moment.
But isn't that again going back to your thing of being a bit late because everyone then is going to downgrade, make that move?
It's okay. It's fine. I don't mind being late. It's fine.
I think just because of fixtures, I like Solanke because this is the next 4-5 long term. Obviously, if it's a set and forget, Havertz isn't an emergency sell, but again, there's around 0.6, 0.7 you can raise over there. And for the fixtures,
I'll tell you what the thing with Havertz is, where everybody struggles. Like the perception that all of us have with Havertz is still that sort of lanky midfieldy sort of player.
Havertz versus Norwich is everything.
Yeah. We don't view him as a centre forward for Arsenal, but he's centre forward for Arsenal. Like so many times I hear people referring to him as he's still playing midfield. He's not. He's centre forward for Arsenal. And he's getting 6-7 shots a game, every game. Every game. And that's just difficult to debate against.
Fair shot. I'm completely calibrated and I've been a Kai fanboy even while he was at Chelsea. So I can get on board and that's why we both own Havertz, obviously. But if I was to build a wildcard team today, I think I'd be going Solanke over Kai.
I was just I actually tweeted out a quote from Havertz. I think I'll just read it out. It's just really interesting. I thought, like in terms of mindset, and I think where he is as a player, etc. So let me just read it out. This is Arteta talking about Havertz. You can tell that his confidence has grown. He takes the ball and he runs with the ball. He's high on press. He goes full gas. The way he holds the ball, the position he takes in the box. He's an attacking midfielder. He plays as a 9. You don't know where he is. That's his football brain. His focus now is I'm going to win the game. I'm going to do it. And that's a different thing. When he's practicing, he wants more. He's not satisfied with what he's doing, but because there is still, I think, another level from him. Obviously, he's surrounded by incredible players, but something in him has changed. And that confidence, you really sense it. He's putting it into games and he's winning football matches. So it's just like he's in a good moment and he could be making that shift into a goal assist sort of machine also, So.
Fair shot. Again, nothing wrong with him. Now let's talk
and nothing wrong with Solanke. I'm with you, actually, because we spoke about it earlier where the Son-Solanke relationship might be more beneficial to Solanke than the Timo-Solanke relationship.
Again, we do too much recency bias. It's just the pure underlying numbers we are seeing rather than the potential.
Yeah.
Moving on now again to the budget forwards. Who's your? Let's tell me your top 2 over here.
So tough. I think a Wolves forward, if money is not the consideration, Cunha, but money is a consideration in your structure than Strand Larsen, just because of the clear run of fixtures that Wolves has. And outside of that,
I still like Chris Wood.
Yeah, Wood or DCL. I
I
still
would.
haven't
You
lost
haven't
faith in
lost it in
DCL.
DCL, but the thing is, it's just Wood right now. Forest just are riding a bit of a wave, but again, goes back to the point earlier. In the winnable games is when the service might be lacking.
Yep. Yep.
That's the issue
And you
there.
know what the problem with Wood is? In 12 and 14, he's got Arsenal and City away. And you're not looking to spend transfers in that fixture. You want like a perma hold in that fixture, which is why I probably wouldn't go Wood now.
Fair shot. But again, I think with if you have a big squad like how we are playing with this week, you can always have a Semenyo, Rogers,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah,
Someone
yeah.
come in there.
No, but no sitting on the fence.
Yeah, because
DCL or
again, like most of us, if I had Wood today and like decent sub, I would have benched Wood against
yeah.
Chelsea, right?
Yep, 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 yep.
Happens. Cool. So just to summarize now again. Now today, if you're building a team, now who would be like your heavy hitters, and would you have Trent?
Yes, I'd find a way for Trent, Foden, Palmer, and Haaland, and then build around that.
I think that's still doable, more so than like your Trent, Saka, Palmer.
Yeah, exactly. So you sort of semi-compromise the Saka with the Kai, and then you build
Oh,
around
you'd
the
want to
fringes.
include Kai along with those. Those that might still be with Trent. So you want to include a Kai, Palmer, Foden, Trent, and Haaland.
Yes, and it's possible.
It is, of course, but the rest of your squad will have to have like a few compromises, but
Very few
seems difficult.
compromise.
Really? Okay,
No,
that's interesting.
yeah,
I'm gonna see because what I'm going to try to do now, I'm going to try to get that. I have 2 free transfers. I'm going to see what I can do with 3,
yeah.
potentially the week after. It seems because the swing seems to be happening more towards game week 9 than game week 8.
It depends on how you read the Wolves fixture and the Chelsea fixture.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
like
Absolutely.
yeah.
The City swing
I'm
happens there.
telling
The
you.
Arsenal swing happens the week after because you have the
Exactly.
Bournemouth fixture. We want to hang on to our Arsenal guys for.
Exactly. It's the Wolves fixture. You remember KDB got 4 returns in that Wolves game, right?
Yeah, that was
So,
right after they got knocked out against Madrid, right?
yeah.
I remember that one very clearly. But again, different setup totally.
Yep.
Do you expect
So
a
yeah, man.
reaction from Wolves at all? Because they do generally like they are a bit better at home. Even that whole Liverpool game, we thought they had the virus and all that stuff. They gave Liverpool a fight.
Yeah, but have to buy the ticket to win the lottery.
Fair shout. It was a
Yeah.
fun pod, man.
Yeah, it was so good. We covered so much. It was like I thought pretty elaborate. So again, man, if you guys have enjoyed the work we're doing, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have been very generous with your likes and subscribes this year, so we're very grateful for that. And you will see Pras on Thursday, where he is going to be talking with FPL Schadenfreude. How do I pronounce?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. Yeah. See, Gujarati in me never gets those pronunciations right. Also, could be a video that I'll do solo on the weekend. I'm actually building a table for big hitters, and I'm still figuring out the structures, etc. as well. So if I do get that in place by the weekend, I'll do like a 15-20 minute video analyzing those big hitters, and I'm hoping that it'll be a regular feature on the pod. At least update that every 2 or 3 weeks.
Fantastic. So we'll be back with the regular Game Week 8 pod on Tuesday with all 3 of us. Then our team selection videos will flow next week as well. Apart from that, we'll be doing, I think, a Discord Q&A next week. A lot of images from today. I know a lot of them would have been visible. And in fact, one thing I want to go back to, LR, actually, before we wrap up, we actually didn't discuss Sir Tab's projections. Now, this is not really very readable on mobile. I just like, so
Push it up fully.
I'll blur it out. Maybe you can't see our faces, but that's probably a good thing. So look at now City up there for goals. Liverpool are still projected to score a decent number of goals, but their clean sheet projections have dropped a little bit, especially in the next 2 is when they take the hit. Brighton, Villa, Southampton are still decent. Similar for Arsenal, I think your Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea game is when the projections take a hit, but Spurs attack is still projected to be very, very good. Brennan is underpriced. If you ask me, Brennan is closer to a 7.5 mid than 6.5.
But you mentioned the matchups.
The matchups like should be interesting. How deep now teams will sit.
Yep.
Chelsea's offense takes a big hit in the next few weeks as well. But again, I don't think that will affect Palmer as much. I don't think the data has caught on as much. Forest, look at how high up they are.
Yeah.
We're talking compared to a Wood versus DCL. Forest projections are miles better than Everton.
Because the next 3, man, Palace home, Leicester away, West Ham home. Just good fixtures.
And West Ham, the bottom 5.
Yep.
In terms of projections.
If you aren't following Sertalp, you really should. Then he started coming up with some interesting visuals. I know that him and a couple of others are working on an interesting project that they're looking to launch maybe at the start of the year. So maybe these are just sort of small gifts coming before Christmas from the service that they're building. Good luck to you guys.
Fantastic work to all those guys over there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. All right. Cheers off. Happy birthday in advance. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope the year's even better for you, man.
Thank
Cheers.
you, man. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the wishes in the chat. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to them individually because obviously there's a discussion we were having at the time. Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate all the love and support, and we will see you again soon. Next week, Press will be back here on Thursday, of course. See you then. Like and subscribe. And bye for now.